evening, everyone. Welcome to Disrupt the Norm podcast season 3 finale. What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Listen,
What's good, y'all?
it's been a road in 2024. I know people are excited about 2025. I'm excited to see all y'all faces tonight. I'm happy to see our live audience faces tonight. So I'm gonna just kick this off because we got to get started because I know we running a little late. But how y'all feeling tonight?
Feeling good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Turned up. Feeling pretty good.
Listen,
Feeling great.
while we
Feeling
were
good,
getting
Dad.
ready and prepared for tonight's podcast, we had some good old fun in here. We was listening to some mixes, and I'm like, hold on, these mixes like, hey, like got us a little
we need
hype.
that.
So got
We
us
need
through
them
the
on
nerves. So I'm excited. So we just gonna get this party started. I'm gonna start it off with our annual shenanigans report. Now, everybody knows what buyer's remorse is, right? And if you don't know, buyer's remorse is basically saying, hey, I bought something, and now that I have it, I don't necessarily want it anymore. Well, now the shenanigans is we just passed the election season, and I'm noticing a lot on the media, a lot on social media, that people are starting to have voters' remorse, which is basically the same thing. They said, hey, I voted for a particular candidate, and I don't think I want them to have my vote anymore. Now, the shenanigans is there's some statistics that say in Google searches that people are actually looking to see if they can change their vote after they've casted their ballot. That is literally a thing right now. So there was a surge of it on the day of the election, and then after that, it became like one of the top 100 searches within Google, right? That was reported within Newsweek. And a lot of these people, who shall remain nameless, voted for, the Republican candidate. Now, a lot of that, I didn't say the name though. So here's the thing. A lot of those same people who voted for that said candidate, the reason why they're kind of having this buyer's remorse or voter's remorse is because the things that they now care about will actually be pretty much moved away from them. Like if you were an immigrant or a family from an immigrant, you're now worried about your family and friends being taken back to their home country, even though that was a thing that the person said that they were going to do when he got voted for. Another thing, people are worried about Social Security. They want to get rid of the Social Security Administration, which is anybody who's like 60, I believe the age cutoff is 62, where you can actually apply and then go forward. But this man has said from the very beginning that that's something that he was going to do. So, what do you think, and this is a question to the panel and as well as our audience tonight, what do you think people were thinking about before they voted, and what makes you think that they thought about after they casted their ballot?
Stimulus checks.
Yeah.
That's what I thought they were thinking about. Stimulus checks.
That little
Not the
$1,200.
I'm
stimmy.
serious.
My business is gonna do better.
Yeah.
My income gonna be higher. He's a good businessman.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might I add, I actually don't want to go here, but most of those people don't fit the tax bracket of who
That's
would
the
benefit from anything that he's going to
That's
do.
the
But
one.
that's not, yeah.
That is true.
Saints and friends, how are you a good businessman if you bankrupt a casino? Like, let's think about this. A casino, a place that is, the odds are stacked against a person that's literally bidding their money. Like they're going against the house. The house always wins. That is the rule. You might win some, you might lose some, but you're losing more than you win, right? But you bankrupt a casino where the house is supposed to win. To me, that kind of lets me know that either you're not good with money management or you really don't understand how that actually works.
Yeah, some people actually use bankruptcy as a financial tool. Some people actually bankrupt businesses to make money. Also, with the economics, I don't really agree with, I'm not gonna say hate, a lot of those tax proposals and policies that said candidate has, he cut taxes for corporations and stuff like by a large percentage last time. It does drive economic growth, which trickles down to help most of us. But I think we want tax cuts, you know what I'm saying, if anybody. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think it does actually affect all people when they do cut taxes for businesses, small businesses and stuff, and it does generate growth. But yeah, about the voters' remorse, I think that's actually something, I have done some research on that happens every time that we have an election. Every single time people are like, can I change my vote? And then not only that, I think people after their candidate or whatever candidate starts going, most of the time, like, their approval ratings drop. Not most of the time, but a lot of times their approval ratings drop, like, once stuff starts going. So I think that's like a common thing that happens all the time. But this time, that's just plain stupidity. Like, that you voted against your own interests, and that was something like that I think everybody knew. Like, that was very clear, like, oh yeah, we deporting these people, like, so that I don't even know what to say on that.
Sis, was you about to chime in on that one?
You know, I think Mike hit it at the end. Like, you knew what he was gonna do. And y'all thought I was joking when I said stimulus checks, but if I'm being honest, that's where people's minds were, because we don't think long term. And it's the sad truth, but a lot of us don't think long term. We think about what we need right now. So even as someone, like, my undergraduate degree is in political science and government. I had to study higher level economics classes. And so you don't realize that the effects that you feel came from the presidency before. So we blaming Kamala, but we going back into slavery with the person who put us in this position. And that's just the honest truth. And it feels differently because we feel like, oh, it was COVID and we got some stimulus checks and he was looking out. The unemployment was popping and all, we had all of these benefits, but that was COVID. Also remember the millions of people who died. And so people were concerned about their pockets rather than their integrity.
Key point right there, pockets versus integrity. Sis, what you about to say something? Or chime in? Because I feel the wheels turning. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, touch on that integrity piece a little more, because if we be honest, neither party is integral. 100%. So I think most people voted based on feelings and how it benefited them, ultimately. So yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that.
I don't think Kamala knowingly lied and allowed millions of people to die. I think that's the difference. Like, I'm not a Kamala fan, but integrity-wise, like, this man pretended that COVID was a hoax and that it was fake and allowed people's grandmamas and granddaddies to die knowingly. So that's what I mean by, like, an integrity. I think we can't look for anybody to have a level of perfection. That's not reasonable. But, like, come on now. Like Trump, like, we went back there. That's what we decided to do. I think that's a serious, and I know it's hard of me saying heart check, right? But we need to do some self-reflection if we felt like it was better to go back to Trump than to press forward with a woman just because we didn't agree with her policies on criminal justice.
Yeah, I think to her point, like, a lot of people don't like politicians and big government because people feel like all politicians do is lie. And I think that's why some people, even if the man says dumb stuff, do dumb stuff, I feel like people be like, I've heard people say, like, well, at least he's honest, at least we know how he feels, because, like, he's gonna say how he feels. Even if he's saying dumb stuff, you're like, that's dumb. But you know he really feel it. And I think people just so fed up. I think people overcorrect and they so fed up with people over-promising and under-delivering, or promising and not delivering at all, especially like for the black community, that they like, well, I'm gonna try something different. And I think that's what happened a lot. I'm not saying that's necessarily what's right, but I think that's what happened a lot. People are like, he actually says stuff, he says what he actually feels, not what they scripted him to say. And so that's why I think a lot of people are like, oh, they got she's reading off a prompter and this and that. People want something real. When I heard Kamala Harris's concession speech, I said, she really, like, it was like heart-wrenching. It was really like touching. It was really inspiring. I said, if she had a focus more on her policies and the things like about her, she probably would have won. Like if she had that drive like that.
She still wasn't gonna win.
I think she could have. It wasn't that big of a whatchamacallit, but I mean, I just a lot of that focusing on another person and not talking about what you're doing and your stuff. I'm like, man,
Kamala lost because she was a woman.
I don't know.
Listen, I'm gonna go to the crowd on this one because I heard something on social media and somebody said this. I'm not surprised that she lost because American history, you will see that sexism is greater than racism. And it superseded that she was a woman versus what her race was. I really didn't care if she was Indian, black. I really didn't care. But they made that a focal point too, to make sure like she's having an identity crisis. So how can you really identify with her to say she's like you? And I think they played on that a little bit for people. And then the other part of it was, the race part, the sexism part. So, crowd, just from anybody who want to give their opinion, like, how do y'all feel? And the original question was, how do you feel that people are having this buyer's remorse or voter's remorse when it comes to the election? Anybody want to chime in real quick?
So I will just say, first, I honestly did not even know that was a thing, like voters' remorse. I had no idea that was a thing. I assumed people generally would research candidates. Even if you're not going to research it, like really do your own, just paying attention to the ads, right? Because we got hammered with ad after ad after ad. So, in your mail, I was like, I had a box just dedicated to just throwing that stuff in the away. Right. So I am surprised to hear that. I just want to say, under what we're talking about right now, I am not surprised with Trump winning. I think that he is the face of how a lot of people in our country really feel and think. He's just the face of it. But at the end of the day, recognizing and remembering our history, the history of the United States, the very fabric of our country, in my opinion, is racism, sexism. That's the DNA of our country. And we can talk about diversity, inclusion, and all of that. That's great. We can talk about, oh, yeah, let's include everybody. That's awesome. That's great. But at the end of the day, the truth is, the undercurrent, the undertone is that we are still in a country that this is how it operates. This is what it is. So I'm not surprised that he won. I'm not surprised at any of it. I'm just like, well, God, I look to you. That's really where my confidence is. People were, I work at, well, let me not say it.
You work somewhere.
I'm not representing anything. But I was approached by Caucasian people, and they were saying, "You're so upset about the election, aren't you? You're so upset." And seriously, and my response was, "No, I'm not surprised. I put my faith in Christ. What about you?" Right? Like, and then they, "Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know I'm right." But that is kind of how things are for me. So I digress.
That's good. That's good.
Go ahead, bro.
I don't want to stay here because we could stay here the whole time, and I know we're limited on time, but the whole thing is interesting, and and I don't want to strike any nerves in here because we'll be on fire talking about this. But one thing that I want to point out about this election is that when you look at the statistics, more people who identify with a faith voted for him.
Yes.
So the people who identified as Christian, Jewish, whatever, it was non-religious people that voted for her, is what I believe the statistics say. So that's something to put, and a lot
Put
of
that on
Christians were advocates for that because of a few things like abortion, right? So it's kind of like screw everything else because, we believe in, we pro-life, this is who we're going with because he exemplifies the glory of our God that we serve. So, but, yeah.
Right. And the funny
put
thing
that in your
is,
pocket.
that's the crazy part, because I did want to bring up the stats part of it just for people's knowledge. Like, that is a true fact. It was NBC News that did a stats polling of all the things. And the one thing that stuck out for me was the education level of people who voted. If you were most likely to have the higher education that you have, the most likely you were to vote Democrat. So if you had only probably a high school diploma, GED, you were most likely to vote Republican. That is a very
so
interesting fact.
interesting.
And I was like, I don't know if we can put it on the screen or let the audience see it, but it actually shows that statistic. It also, like he said, it shows the statistic of based off of your religious beliefs, how you voted. Now, the one thing I want to say to all my folks who voted blue, right? Or my African American family that voted blue. I want to say I was surprised by the overwhelming support that we showed her in the way that we did. Now everybody be like, well, that should have been a fact, right? She's our candidate. No, not really, because I believe in knowing and understanding what your candidate stands for, so you can make a totally informed opinion about them so you can vote for them. It's not just by one topic. Yes, I don't believe in abortion. I don't believe for my body that that's the thing to do. However, I want you to go between you and God for yourself. And I cannot, and for me, my conviction is I don't want to force that on you. That is a decision that you have to make for yourself. But just like the prophet said, as far as me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So that's how I look at that situation, right? But I want to bring this all to a close because we want to get to saving our sanity, so we can just talk about mental health for a quick second. But I just really want people to understand that the election's done and deal with. I find it funny that now that the Republicans got their candidate in, there has been no talk of voting in regulations, okay? Like, it's just been silent, like crickets. And I'm like, I've never heard Democrats ever have that argument, right? Even if I go past, not even this past election, but any election past, that's never been their argument. So I'm like, y'all kind of losing me with this. Like, y'all quiet because y'all candidate won. But one thing I will say is this: now that the die has been cast, right? You have voters' remorse, but now it is what it is, and we believe in God's sovereignty, right? God knows all and sees all, and he has provision. And somebody said this, Prophet Shipman said this, and he was like, listen, one thing about Trump is that this man is unpredictable, and people, other leaders or world leaders are scared of that unpredictability. And I was like, you know what? That makes sense. And I can rest in that, knowing that I voted my conscience to say, like, hey, this is what I believe good leadership looks like, but God, if you says otherwise, okay, I'm cool with it. But what I also don't want saints to do is just glance over how you felt about what happened. You have to acknowledge that you were sad, or you felt defeated, or you felt that we went backwards. You have to say that and acknowledge it, and just be like, oh, I believe in God. Wait, go ahead and say you're upset, and then say, but I still believe in God. Because it does not, we need to acknowledge our emotions. And last but not least, I will say that we talk about God's sovereignty covers all, right? But we also I've lost my train of thought. That was supposed to be my last thing. But God's sovereignty covers all, right? So we just know and believe that God is going to do everything. And even though he may not have been my choice, right? I am not going to root for this man to fail because he is a reflection of our government at its highest point, right? So for all of us here, I believe that this is what the choice is for now, and now that we have to pray for our leader. So regardless if he was your candidate or not, you should be praying for the man. Regardless of what you believe in the policy that you want to see happen, pray, because that's what covers, all right? Amen, saints and friends. All right, so moving on, we're going to bring on to saving our sanity, and we're going to talk a little bit about our mental health in this saga, wrapping up the year. Go ahead, Angie and Phil.
Yeah, save our sanity.
Yeah, please.
Yo, what's up, Phil? Help us save our sanity today.
So,
Help
yeah, I
us.
don't know about y'all, but me personally, man, I hate talking about politics. I'm just happy that the election over. What y'all think? Y'all happy the election over? So,
I'm
Can we
glad
clap for
I ain't
election
getting
being
them
over?
text messages, them things in the mail, them phone calls. I've been waiting on that for months.
right. So look, so during these past couple of months, there was actually a term coined called election anxiety, and it's basically like
Put your phone down.
so it's basically like the emotional roller coaster that y'all got, throughout the election, or even post-election anxiety, or how y'all might have felt like afterwards. Like, y'all getting all the texts, all the emails. Y'all wonder what Kamala doing, what Trump doing every single day. It was a big part of our lives. It was just an emotional roller coaster. So what y'all think? Can y'all relate to that? Because I know for me, it was like, I'm just happy it's over.
Yeah, I definitely I didn't necessarily have anxiety, but I had a lot of irritation.
Right.
I couldn't go watch my podcast because it was just political stuff. Every time I picked up my phone to see who it was texting me, it was another stranger. I'm like, no, I don't. People calling me, texting me, mailbox full. So it was a high irritation for me. Even just the climate of the election was it was like a lot of things that really didn't matter, everybody was going back and forth on. And so I'm happy that it's over. I'm excited that it's over. Don't know what's going to happen over the next 4 years, but I'm excited it's over.
I had anxiety. I did. I was nervous, and even in trusting God, I think it's a part of me that's still nervous, and I think that I was more so nervous for black men than anything, because for them, not to, all of them, not to show up for Kamala like they could have, it's them that's most at risk, because when he was in office, it was open season on black men. So I'm interested to see what the political climate and the police climate is going to be over the next 4 years, because he was law and order. You do what you need to do. You stand your ground. And left and right, we were turning and crying and sharing Facebook posts and crying for justice for black men.
I don't know, me, that election night, I had anxiety looking at all the states turn red. I know that.
Listen, I was shocked for Michigan to turn red a little bit. And I will tell you why. Because Michigan, ever since I've paid attention, I want to say since 2000, right? Where Michigan has always been a swing state, where we will flip-flop. One time we'll be conservative, one time we'll be more liberal, and it's always gone back and forward, right? But I was surprised because we're, out of all the states, we're one of the most diverse. Like, we have a high concentration population of Middle Eastern, Middle Eastern. You can go through Dearborn, Livonia, that area is a high concentration, right? And I would have thought that they would have been a little bit more liberal because of what he stands for, right? And I was shocked because then I saw a lot of my black brothers and sisters, or some of my black brothers, like saying, hey, I'm voting for Trump. Why? And they couldn't give me an actual reason why they were voting, but it goes back to what she was saying before, STEMI, right? They couldn't say anything or articulate other than, well, he gave me money. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But it was one of those things like, how could us being a very liberal, we have a governor who has done a great job as a woman, as a person who's been personable with getting things done. Like, one thing I tell people about our governor is that, listen, she said she was gonna fix these roads. She fixing all
She
them
fixed all
roads,
of them.
okay? It's
At the
construction
same
everywhere.
time.
But that's the thing, like, with her promise, it comes with a little bit of frustration to get the job done, right? But she showed us the way of, hey, this is what progress will look like if we all band together. This is going to be frustrating, because for me to fix the roads, we have to fix our infrastructure, right? And infrastructure is buildings, roads, things that, people don't know the difference between infrastructure and infrastructure, so I just like to tell people, right? So
I did.
It's one of those things where she came through. So when I'm looking at that and seeing how we have been a very liberal state and have been prosperous as that way, for everybody to just turn around and vote for him. And I was just like, wait, I couldn't get it. And then my cousins, we have a chat, and I ain't gonna expose who said it, but they was just, I got family in the chat, in the room, and they was going hard. They was just like, I don't know how y'all thought that Kamala was gonna win. And they were saying from where they lived at, there's a high concentration of Latino population, and you would not believe how much they believe in the Republican way or conservative way, even though most of them at some point was illegal, got legal. So he was like, they are more like to pull the ladder up. After they get up, they pull the ladder up. They don't help nobody else. It is very one for yourself and get it done. And I was like, wow. So for me, I was very anxious and I was very surprised at how it unfolded.
So Angela, what are some tips you can give, the people how to deal with post-election anxiety, election anxiety for right now, even in the future?
I am glad that you asked. So I wanted to speak to one thing, like if people are feeling anxious, what the heck did we do with that? Because it was a lot of anxiety coming up to like if he was going to win. And I know for myself, I just really went to sleep. I did not even try. I said, good night. And I just turned it, I turned the TV off. And I woke up on accident, but Apple News, it told me, I was like, no, I was just going to the bathroom. I didn't want to see. But dealing with the anxiety, because that's us just worrying about what's going to happen in the future. That's unknown. So I'm going to give you all some tips on what we can do when we're like stressing about politics. So step one is limit the news consumption. That's exactly what I did. Like I just had to log off because we get live updates from our friends and family on Facebook. Then we're getting the different things from the news channels, and it's everywhere because we have this phone and it's constant communication. So just kind of limit that. Take a social media break. That is really important to do. Focus on what you can control. So this is not like in your hands. So maybe just turning your attention to yourselves, family, friends, local communities, different things that you can do. Like yes, he won, but it's still advocacy you can do on your local and state level to help the people around you. Live your values. One way to impact politics and decrease stress is to make sure our daily lives are closely aligned with what we believe. And then number 5 is seek community. Find those spaces where you can be able to talk about this in a safe space. Do not engage in arguments with people because we have the ability and the right to have different views. We don't need to argue with somebody who has opposing views of us because that really doesn't matter. Because as Christians, what we need to do is just love people. So whether somebody has an opposing view, it's like, amen. And then what are you doing to keep yourself like safe? Talk to people who have similar views with you, people who are safe people. Take a breath. If it's too much, disconnect. So that is like advice I would give you all.
That's good. That's good.
Now, just to piggyback off that, So should we avoid the conversation of dealing with people who have maybe a conflicting idea or from you? Because I know you're saying we should have safe spaces, but how do we have that conversation safely without feeling triggered in that moment?
I don't think you should avoid it. I don't think you should attack it. So I think that the way that you learn and grow is by having a conversation, because they could have really opposing view of something you haven't looked at. Like, it's some things that Trump could have said, right? Everything he said was horrible. It's some things that he said that made a little sense. Some things that Kamala said made a little sense. So just because your perspective is different, for us it's sixes, for you it's nines, right? It just looks different. So I wouldn't say avoid it, but don't like attack it or argue with people. You know, like what Lativia said, like, you know, I believe in God, amen. It's getting to a point where I'm having a healthy conversation with you and then it goes left, shut it down and walk away.
That's a fair statement. I appreciate the addressing the anxiety or the feelings that we have, because we got to save our sanity in this upcoming year, and just closing out the rest of this year. Did anybody else on the panel have something to say, or somebody from the audience want to chime in about how you felt? All right.
First thing about the election is just the fact that someone could even run for president in the United States has been indicted 34 times. What if Whitmore, if her or any other candidate was indicted, facing court charges, and could still run for president? That's ludicrous. And now that he is in the office of president, he's looking to get all the charges dropped, looking to pass a law of immunity for anything that he does. He's setting himself up. He wants to be like Putin. He wants to be like a guy in China. He's going to have complete rule. Y'all just watch the next couple years where he changed it. I mean, even now they're having a thing with Gatz being the attorney general. What experience does he even have as attorney general? The only thing they have in common is the fact that they have parties, they take women, and I'm surprised that more women didn't vote for Kamala, because you know you have someone that is a sexual, you know. So you just watch the next couple of years and just prepare yourselves for any hard times that may come. That's why right now I got 3 freezers in my house. I ain't got to go look for no food for 6 months, you know. I'm prepared for anything that might happen.
I appreciate you saying that, Bishop, and I think all of us are in the mindset of, you know, we believe God, but we also prepare, you know, for the hard times too. And it's not knocking, like I said, Trump and his candidacy and him being the president for the next 4 years or whatnot. But I think it's a thing for us to take a mental health break sometimes, not even just with talking about the election. We're talking about what's going to happen, but we just need to take a break from media sometimes. And that's kind of funny coming from me. I am a media person, media guru. That's my job. But even I have to take a step away and be like, okay, it's information overload. So everybody just take a breather sometimes. Well, we are almost halfway through. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Again, we are Disrupt the Norm podcast. We're going to kick this off. We're going to swing it over to my left, y'all right. We're going to talk to Tashima and Micah. We're going to talk about a little bit of money. Okay, so go ahead, fam.
I think just to start it off with the preparedness, I think as people, we need to do a better job with talking and partnership and collaborating with group economics to really prepare for what's to come and not get so distracted on what's going on, but really go underground, really focus and strategize on what needs to happen next, and not be so focused on what's going on. Because I think we can get so distracted and not intentional about what needs to be done. So we need intentionality right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's about being proactive and not reactive, right? Like the vote happened, this happened, and it's like, oh man, you can't go into, I think just like what you all were saying, like process your feelings, process that stuff, take the time you need, get well, get your mind right, but also while you're doing that or when you're done, prepare. So I think that's important. But just talking about this money report, like actual report, I think one of the things kind of tying it in with where we coming from as a transition point that a lot of people were talking about was like economics, right? People were talking about, oh, groceries, the price of this is too high, inflation is crazy. And so I think a lot of people's pockets are hurting right now. And I think what we really wanted to talk about was advancing black wealth. And we want to talk about legacy, right? And I think that's what she's talking about, strategizing. I think these are good things, strategizing, group economics coming together. I'm really proud of, as a proponent of financial literacy, I'm really proud of a lot of the financial literacy that we have going on. I think that's key, like that's foundational. Learning about finances, what are assets, what are liabilities, all those things. But really basic stuff, like basic things like spending less than what you earn. Okay, we could do basic stuff. Okay, don't live within your means. Don't live within, I didn't say don't live above your means like a lot of us do. Don't live within, live beneath your means. Why should you live beneath your means? Why should you not live paycheck to paycheck? Because you got it to spend. Because this is how we create movement. Financial movement. We don't want to just be able to scrape by and make it. In order for us to advance and create wealth, we first have to build the wealth, right? And one of the easiest ways anybody, well, not anybody, but most people who are at least well off and not living paycheck to paycheck, if you can lower your expenses, do that, because if you have money to save, then when the emergency comes, you don't have to use that credit card, right? If you have money to save, you might actually have some money to invest. That's one of the ways you actually build wealth, right? Is investing, not saving. Saving is how you can get rich or have some money. But I think it's important for us to continue to learn about financial literacy in different ways that we can save money, invest money. And another thing that I want to say real quick, and I'm going to give it back to my partner. All those things are good, saving, investing, but also invest in yourself. It's the best thing that anybody can do is invest in yourself. Invest in your skill set. Even if you're not looking for a job, write all the things you're doing at your job, all the skills you're learning, all the things you're doing, because what you'll do when you do that is you'll notice how you've been adapting, how you've been growing. Oh, I've been doing this. I'm able to do that, and you'll see your marketability. And then you'll see, oh, I have these areas where I can grow in. And so you want to make yourself marketable if you want to be in a workplace to be hired by another employer. I talk to people all the time about their finances and different things. Sometimes I tell people, you should probably try to make some more money if you want those things. It's not always, oh, just save more. But a lot of people don't think they can do that. A lot of people don't know, oh, I can go get the promotion. I can ask for a raise. How many people in here have asked for a raise over the last 3 to 5 years?
Me.
2 people. 3 people. Oh, 4. Okay, look, this is good. 5. We got a good group, okay? But it's not, a lot of us don't think we can do that. We scared they're gonna fire us or something. But you earn that, you learning those things. And then guess what? If they don't give you the raise, somebody else will hire you because you have more skills than what you started with. Don't stay at that. So I think it's a lot of things that we can do, just like the group economics at a base level before we start talking about investing in wealth to, kind of move forward as black people with finances, because there's a huge wealth gap with black people compared to whites and other groups.
I think that's really good too, because it also speaks to one of the points I made. Yeah, we may not agree with who will be our president, but that does not mean stop working on your stuff.
Right.
Do not be like, oh, he president, I'm not going to win, they're going to press us. No, work on your stuff and get prepared, whether that's having 3 freezers, getting your marketing stuff together. Work on it all. Collaborate, partnership, all those things are super important. And it takes your attention off of something you don't like and gives you driving energy to work on something that is going to better you anyway.
That's right.
I definitely want to drive home the partnerships and the collaboration because I think a lot of times, though all of those things are good, you can make more money, you can ask for raises, some people need the help. So it's okay to collaborate with somebody else. You can put your 100 with this 100, and now y'all got 200, and keep on going. And I think if we move like that, because a lot of other cultures do, I think that we can bridge the gap, we can get momentum, and we can take it to the next level. So I really think that we need to really have the mindset of partnership and really working together as a team. Well, find your tribe first, and then coming together, putting that money in the pot and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
Trustworthy people.
In that, I think one thing that Mike said that was really important was the financial literacy piece, right? Like, I feel like sometimes we look at it, we're like, oh, I know about like a 401k, I know about this, but what we really have to do, like as a community, especially in business and like entrepreneurship, is learn the game as far as tax breaks.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's getting ate up. You can bring in more money, they're not gonna do nothing but take more. So how do we get around that, right? Because we have a certain group of people who run the nation, right? And they got the game, and it's just for them. So how do we get to the point to where we know
the game.
where we know the game, and we can come together and teach each other, and even if we're pooling money, right? But we do that in a way to where it benefits everybody. So I'm paying myself a salary, even though I brought in this much, the business brought in this much. I'm only taxed on this part. What does that look like for our community?
Yeah.
Back up a little bit. I think one key thing that Mike talked about, and I know Tasha kind of swung at the finances, and so did Kiara, but about the skills on the job. I think that's so important to take account of those, because sometimes you don't realize like the things that you've gained, even like in your normal role, right? They ask you to do different things, take on different projects, and it's actually building you and your skill set. And if you're taking inventory of that, you can really not only look to see like, okay, how can I get a promotion or how can I get more money? You can say, how can I take those skills to make me more money outside of work?
That's where we go.
How can I use these skills to, start a side hustle or something like that? And then to Tasha's point and Kiara's about collaboration, maybe it's not just money, right? Maybe you're seeing that, hey, I have these new skills. Now I can get with that person who's been looking for somebody with these skills. How can now we come together? I may not have the money, but I have the skills, right? I bring the skills, they bring the money. What can we, build from this? What can we launch? What could we develop, from this? So definitely those skills are so important because it can be some skills that make you money outside of working for someone else. You can invest that into yourself, whatever those skills are.
What do we keep saying? It's in the house. Y'all better start collaborating with each other.
Amen to that one. And another thing, I loved what Mike said originally. He was saying, you always hear people saying, live within your means. No, he said, live below. Yeah. And I think that was the first time I've actually heard somebody say live below it, because it said living within your means, meaning you're already hitting your max most of the time. And most people be like, well, if you're within your max, you can't really save. And that's a good thing. Like, we need to start looking at how can we live below, meaning if you can't go out as many times, maybe that just might be the thing. If you need to cook at the house, you know what I'm saying, that might be the thing. So you have to take inventory of what you spend your money on, because I believe either we were talking about this, I think he or either Pastor said it, where he was like, look at your expenses for the last 30 days and see where you put your money at. Because that can let you know if you putting too much into it, or you be like, oh, I'm spending kind of frivolous. So you need to kind of know what that is. And another part about building black wealth, right? If y'all look at other communities, and I'll just say other communities. Because I don't want to. They keep the wealth within their community because they go to, oh, I know Tashima has financial literacy and she has a financial portfolio, so I'm gonna go invest with her with finances. Tashima might know Mike and he knows how to do real estate and he knows how to do that. Then, oh, I need to get my kids into a daycare. Well, wait, I want to send my boys over here, but I got Key who has a daycare. Like, we're keeping it within our community. If I need a psychologist or, well, not psychologist, therapist, my bad, mental health therapist, and I want my kids to get help or I want to get help, hey, I know someone that is in the house, right? So we don't realize that, we don't realize how much we have of wealth of knowledge within our house because we're always reaching out and not this way. Like, we're always trying to reach out to everybody else and be like, wait, it's in the room, it's in the house. And so I believe that once we understand the concept and idea of saying, know who's among you, I think we're slowly getting there to say, wait, I'm going to get to my brothers and sisters because I know it's here. But we're slow to get to that point of saying, I want to invest in my community. And I want us to get out of that habit.
And I got a comment. Oh.
Which one?
So that is so important what you said, Maria, about allowing the dollar to circulate more in the Black community. And in order to do that, we gotta stop using that stereotype of Black people do bad business.
Amen.
Because bad business is just bad business. It doesn't matter whether it's a Black person or a person of another race, but we so quick to do that. That's why I hate spending money with Black people. I don't know. And you tear down businesses based off of one experience, right? You know, and then you done took your dollar over here to these people that's done elected this man, but we're not going back down that road. but I'm saying, right, instead of allowing your dollar to circulate and benefit your community, because all you're doing is really washing your money. If I go to my friend and spend money, and then if he goes to his wife and gives money, you know what I'm saying? But and so on and so forth, all we did was keep the money flowing within our community longer, rather than giving it out.
What you said kind of play off what I was going to say too, not to bring it mental. I'm the therapist, but it's not even on purpose. It's also your mindset to, like, with Mike's point, what did you say, live below your means?
Beneath your means.
And it's a scarcity mindset because, like, we maybe grew up below our SCS and then we have something to prove from something we didn't have in our childhood. Oh, I grew up getting bullied because I didn't have nice clothes or holes in my shoes, and now as an adult, I'm over expending because I'm trying to prove to people around me that I have it because I didn't as a child. Like, you gotta, like, think about that too, because sometimes we get stuck in not being able to progress because we're in the past. And I'm just like, well, do the heart check for Kiara, do the mental check for me, go ahead and check on the money people in the middle because it's all connected anyway, right?
And if you don't, you full of shenanigans, okay? So, it is. But
that's major. I appreciate that comment because most people don't think about that. Like, you don't get wealthy before you have a wealth mindset. It's a mindset first, right? Like, you can have money and you can be broke. People win the lottery and go broke all the time because they still have the same mindset, right? Oh, I got some money, I'm gonna spend it. And that's how we are. And just like y'all talking about, we can partner, we have a wealth of knowledge. Black people actually make money. They try to, tell you, we don't make no money, we all poor. No, we make money, but like y'all said, our money goes out of our community. And so we gotta pool our resources, use our skills for each other, for the upbuild of our communities. Again, that we in the room, and then that mindset, I appreciate those two comments.
And then I'm going to add to that our addictions too. So not only do we go outwardly and spend money, but we also invest in our addictions. So we don't really talk about that because we have all this trauma. But I'm not going to
Come on. Go ahead with the save our sanity.
It's a level of that.
Don't do it.
listen,
We feeding our addictions and the money is paying for it. Okay.
listen, and the fact that about Key said, we have to get over that mindset of Black folks do bad business. Also, the flip side of that is if people are giving you feedback about how you are doing business or the service that you are giving, don't take it as you're trying to cut me down. Right. Take it as, let me do better. And I think people don't like the criticism or the feedback because it's a personal attack. One thing that I teach at my job is really, I was like, it's not you, okay? It's the product that they have a problem with. And so, but you take it personal because they're attacking you at the moment. And you have to be able to separate yourself from that.
Mary, and because this topic is so good, because it could just go so many different ways. The one thing that I thought about when she said that, we, even with taking criticism, right? We can give criticism, but one thing, like as a business owner for me is, because I'm black or because we know each other, the assumption that you should get a discount.
Right. Oh, help us.
Because you don't walk into one of them stores and be like, can I get a discount? You don't haggle, what is that what it's called? Yeah, haggle, that's it, right? I don't do it. There we go. But no, we don't do that with them. We don't. But if it's somebody in our community, like, oh, they gonna give me the hookup. Why can't you pour into their business? The same way that you would go over here and spend your money and give them $2,500 without blinking because they told you that that's how much the price was. If you come to me, oh, what is it? Why should I? What's the benefit of me coming over here? The benefit is you keeping the dollar in your community longer. You're supporting like, come on now. Okay, and rant. And rant.
Okay, go ahead and wrap up so we can get last but not least.
Because I keep going.
It's a wrap. We done.
Boom.
That is this Money
Boom.
Report. Thank you for tuning in.
That's it.
Right. Drop mic. It's like, literally. But Saints and friends, we are almost done. I'm going to just hand it off to our relationship folks, Key and Rob at the end, and then we go wrap up. Thank y'all so much again for still hanging with us and being in the conversation. And audience, don't forget, if y'all have something to say, go ahead and chime in with us. All right, go ahead, Key.
So
Rob.
and so ties.
So, a couple segments, right, have already touched on this, so I'm glad y'all didn't get deep into it. Thank y'all. Angela touched on it. Tasha talked on it. We want to talk about trauma from the angle of healing generational trauma together. And that's our intent, but however, we're just going to flow because what Tasha touched on was good, right? Talking about addictions, right? And then our traumas. And then Angela, you touched on trauma in a different way, and I can't even remember the gravity of it, but definitely childhood, right? Trauma and things of that sort. So, and then even with the election, and we don't want to talk about the election no more, but that brought up a lot of trauma for people, right? And a lot of it was based in traumas and triggers and things of that sort. So how do we, and we really were going to come from the position of relationships, but it doesn't even have to be romantic relationships, just any relationships. How do we heal generational trauma together?
Okay, so we got a couple of the saints in the audience that's about to chime in on this one. But I'm gonna just let Doug go first, and then we go.
So to speak to trauma, me, somebody that's come from trauma, and I feel like I've done steps to correct trauma in my own life by doing therapy, and now I did therapy, couple therapy, like marriage therapy, individual therapy, and group therapy. So uncovered a lot, right? I think for us, as far as the church, most of us that's our only therapy, especially in a black community, right? So it's like, that's where it ends. But a lot of this trauma, like you were saying earlier, childhood trauma, it was stuff that I uncovered, like my whole life was from a lens of the trauma that I experienced as a kid. You see what I'm saying? From dating to how I treated people, how I felt abandoned. I mean, all of that, right? Covered a whole multitude of things. So I would say I'm such an advocate for like going to seek therapy, especially in a black community. And then especially for black men. You know what I'm saying? Because as a black man, we're told to like handle things. You know what I'm saying? You a punk if you cry. You know, any type of emotions that you show or face or do whatever is frowned upon, right? Unless it's raised, right? So we celebrate, you know, the going too far, you know what I'm saying, acting out of control, killing and all this other type of stuff. It's a system that's in place, right? the music that's being pumped out there, everything, and it goes both ways for the men and the women, right? The negative is like projected out there, right? Nobody wants to talk about the healing and the coming together of the black family, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's critical, and I think the way that we can start to heal that, and to answer your question, is by really, first of all, having hard conversations, whether it be a romantic one, whether it be just friends. Like, you see a lot of people just acting out of trauma, right? Somebody's just always mad, somebody that can't take a criticism, you know, the lack of accountability, the spirit of offense, you know, all these things which we face in the church. You get what I'm saying? Not just on a personal level. So I believe, you know, right now we have good therapists, we have a lot of people, we have these resources. I think it's imperative in a black community that we go seek therapy and that we get help for our childhood traumas, because I want to say 90% of us, if not more, are operating out of that. You see what I'm saying? Those traumas from our childhood. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't have to be, because I think, like I say, it's the enemy keeping this thing going to where we're not individually taking accountability, right? We're always pointing a finger at other people, right? It's you, it's mama, it's this, it's that, right? And then when we look like, when we blow up and everything is out of control, when we by ourselves and we pushed everybody away, now we get I went too far, or you know what I'm saying? But you stay in the cycle because we're not dealing with the root of the problem. So once again, I think going to therapy, getting to the root of what's causing us to be the way that we are, can help heal the land, you know, and heal our community.
I got a question.
That's good.
Yes.
Have y'all ever considered, right, that a lot of the roots of our own issues, even in our own childhood trauma, is not just from us?
Correct, yes.
So it's this study, and Angela can go more into it because that's her degree, right? I just know about it because I know about it. But this is a study that they did with mice where they shocked the mice.
Yeah, systems.
Yeah,
It's systems.
and so they shocked the mice, and then the mice responded a certain way. And then those mice had children, and the children of the mice were never shocked, but they still responded a certain way. And then the grandchildren of the next mice still responded that way, and it went down 3 generations. So it may be something that you're dealing with that's like from your great grandmama, and you don't even know, right, that why you dealing with this. So I think a part of like healing that generational trauma is also having those hard conversations with your family. Why do I have this feeling? I'm going to talk to my great grandma. Why do I have this feeling? Why is this going on? Why do I struggle with this? Oh, because this is something that my great grandmama dealt with 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And not allowing things to stay so secretive in families.
And a lot of that stuff was swept under the rug in our family,
That's-
right?
Yeah.
We don't talk about things. We don't talk about uncle this or great uncle this or grandma and grandpa went through these things. I'm finding out stuff about my family that I never knew, like recently. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there you go, you know what I'm saying? But I wish
Yeah.
I would have had this information before I went through therapy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it makes sense, right? Like you say, it's the muscle memory and the soul memory of these things
in your
happening.
genes.
Yeah, it's just traveling down, and then like, we're not discussing it, and you're wondering where these feelings are coming, where's this rage coming from, where's this, you know what I'm saying, shutting down, doing all this stuff, where's it coming from? And this stuff happened, right, 2, 3, 4 generations ago. And just because it's so diluted down to you, you have no clue, you know what I'm saying, how this has got to you, you know what I'm saying, whether it be sexually,
Is it
whatever.
diluted or is it compounded? Because I
Compounded.
got
It's
your stuff
compounded
and I
at that
got my
point.
stuff.
Yeah.
Compounded at that point.
Yeah, I think it's compounded, and I appreciate that because I think we have to confront the issues. Like, they say stuff like, see something, say something. But like you said, we sweep stuff under the rug. And like, we talk so much, even with the therapy, I think it's important to be self-aware. But then as you growing in your self-awareness, you also should be becoming aware about what's going around. Because once your mindset is shifting like, oh, that's not normal. Oh, that's not okay. I see these patterns. When you see it, you have to confront it. Like, and that takes some courage. That takes some maturity, like to be like, we need to have a conversation because I don't want to just be better by myself. You know, I want my family to be better. And so, yeah, I think it's like we have to have the hard conversations. And a good place to start is in the family, but you do have to deal with, okay, these people, even though I'm on this journey, maybe they're not on that journey. So I need to learn how to communicate with somebody who may not have this perspective or may feel like they being attacked or may have a spirit of offense. Because all really that is the enemy trying to keep the same behavior going through the bloodline. He's trying to hide. He's trying to protect his weapons. He's trying to keep that thing going. And so you have to be courageous enough to have the conversations and stand your ground. Do it with gentleness. Do it with love. Take time. Have small conversations. But we have to have the conversations.
I think that as far as the conversations, so in a lot of families, they're not volunteering the information. I think you have to seek it, be bold enough to seek it, and listen. One of them aunties, one of them uncles, somebody gonna tell it. Somebody been waiting to tell it. And you just sit up because
Glad you asked.
I'm glad you, because listen, it's a lot of things like in my family on both sides that I wanted to know, and like I'm blessed to have my great grandmother around, right? So I would sit with her often and just ask different stuff. And sometimes it'd be messy questions, but if she answers, she answered. If she don't, she don't. And even on the other side of the family, like I'm starting to just get to know. That was some of the first stuff I was asking. I want to ask them about the good stuff, because people talk about that all the time, the legacy and what the family stand for. No, tell me the messy stuff. I want to know, like, what patterns is in the family. Not necessarily gossip, but just like, what is this family history? Like finding out my dad's dad got like 14 kids, couple families, like that's stuff I want to know. That makes sense because my dad got 7 kids and 7 baby mamas, so that stopped here, right? But stuff like that I wanted to know, and I still be asking questions like, how was your relationship with this person? What is this family like? Where were they from? Like, I'll get to the basics first, right? Where the family from? How did what's the latest y'all know? We came over here, what state? That type of stuff. And then just start digging. And, just being genuine and really wanting to know, some of the stuff just come out. Because people be wanting to talk about different stuff, but sometimes you gotta ask the questions, which this is encouraging me to go back to my great granny and ask some more.
Right, ask some more questions. Go ahead, Angie.
So my comment is gonna be super short because I could talk about this all day, but knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. And that's true because the generations, like even just the generation above me, so like my mom, they were taught not to ask questions. So when I really did go seek her out for answers, she really didn't know. And I'm like, so y'all just didn't talk about it, and that's a thing but then like me and my sisters were asking, and then it's the conversation of like, are the millennials coming off as rude because we want to know, but then do we really understand why they didn't ask questions, the generation above us? And then the other thing is just the knowledge part is seeking out answers because yes, like Doug, you talked about like rage and blowing up, but also perfectionism is a result of trauma. Hyper-independence is a result of trauma. So things that look positive in society are actually trauma. And are we talking about it more or like having more platforms to be like, you are really successful and you're thriving. Are you okay? Because I know when I thrive, I'm probably not, right? But then people aren't aware to know that people who do amazing work are the ones that's struggling the most. So just like understanding, it's not always the person that's crying every day. It's not the person who's anxious. It's not the person that's like codependent. It's sometimes the one who, I got it, what you need, I'm putting the whole community on my back.
Right.
Let's learn knowledge and language to be like, this looks like trauma too.
Yeah.
So I made that really short.
Great things about researching, I guess, asking questions, the number one thing, which a lot of people don't do. I think from generation to generation, people put their head under a rug. Or as my grandmother used to say, you can't sweep this under a rug and wiggle your nose like Samantha, which was a popular show at that time, and just hope that everything go away. It's not gonna go away. You have to ask those hard questions. And once you ask questions, you have to identify. Then you have to accept. A lot of people do not accept that this happened in their family, or they won't accept, or they won't admit. And we know that acceptance, as you said, knowledge and admitting, hello, my name is Tamara, I am an addict. Hello, my name is Tamara, I come from a dysfunctional family. and we will not admit our dysfunction, and it becomes deception. So we begin to pass our deception of we're okay from generation to generation. And so this is really good about trauma. We really could probably spend a lot of time in this just to make sure that people even understand that they've been living in dysfunctional trauma generation after generation. And then it goes back to, that was good what you said about the father, you know, because a lot of people don't know that they are dealing with shenanigans because of their parents and their grandparents. And when you realize that, then you can say, as Rob said, the buck stop here. The curse, I'm breaking the curse here. And so we have to be willing to do that. Yeah.
So yeah, I got a comment.
Good.
So, I mean, I always say, like, until I took my counseling course, I didn't even know I was living in dysfunction. Like, I had no idea until I was able to take this counseling course at the church. So it could be deceptive.
So I want to piggyback off of that because you just said most people do not know that they're operating in dysfunction. And something that I've been writing on for the past year is function, conjunction, what's your dysfunction? Like so many of us are operational, meaning we're successful, we are prosperous, we're this, but we have something else going on too. And because we are able to cover it up by our success, or because we can cover it up because we look so functional that we don't even try to get to the issue. And that's even in the Bible. Like even the man, he was a great general. He had all these accolades, but he was a leopard. Or not a leopard, but he had the issue with the skin, right? So leprosy. There we go. I was like, he was a leopard. And it was like leprosy, but he had leprosy, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. So it goes back to the Bible where it says, like, even him, he was very successful at what he did, but he was able to cover it up because of his successes. And I think that people don't want to acknowledge it, because if I have to acknowledge it, then I have to deal with it. And people are okay living in dysfunction. If I don't acknowledge it, it doesn't exist. But the funny thing is, you living in dysfunction is disrupting someone else. You're just not impacted by it because you're comfortable in it.
Go ahead and close us out after this. Just close us out.
Like, you're not on the receiving end of it. So people talk about, like, it's not what you said, but how you said it. It's because you're not on the receiving end of it. And so people don't understand how dysfunctional it is because they've been living with it for so long. We got another comment. Go ahead.
So I think that one of the reasons why people don't ask questions is because some of it is criminal. Some of it is criminal, and you don't tell about that kind of stuff because it's the black man and they going to jail and blah blah blah. And so how do you come to a place where you talk about what's being perpetuated in the family and it's criminal?
We ain't talking about telling, we talking about asking.
So you're saying, like, it's this behavior, this thing is going on now, and it's criminal.
So
you
it's
said
not,
perpetuated.
I feel like okay, tell me, like, say it was sexual abuse. That's criminal. But then if I tell that it gets somebody's dad sent to prison or uncle sent to prison, is that what you mean? Okay, that's what she meant. Mm-hmm.
We standing on business. We standing on business. And I think it's time to kind of just draw the line, because when you don't, then we end up with these generations that are still having these unspoken issues, because you're not the only one that he done did it to, but then that grandbaby is born, and then he's still that old uncle that they be like, no, baby, don't go over there. We keep him over here. That's Uncle Pedophile. But he's still the same person. No, I'm serious. Like we like that because that's what it is. That's in some families they don't even it ain't hidden.
It costs
It's
too
not
much.
hidden. Don't you go over there. Every family got one. We side eyeing them. We not too sure about him. So you come over here, and it's time to stop that. It's time to just stop pulling your babies and start calling stuff out and doing what you have to do. And if he's sent to jail or if he, whatever the case is, then that's just what needs to happen. Because who protects those girls? Who protects those babies?
And those boys.
And those boys.
So, yeah, to that point, so I got two comments on it. One, somebody got to be an advocate because it's bigger than the practical piece. It's definitely a spiritual piece, right? When you're talking about these behaviors, attitudes, and actions happening generation to generation. So that's the one. Somebody have to stand up and kind of be bold, right, and be honest. But then two, more often, well, I can't make that statement. Sometimes, or oftentimes as I've witnessed or seen, I can't say that, people ain't really had the conviction to send somebody to jail in these families. It'd be kind of like how she just said, like it's known, right? So I think if the secret comes out, it just comes out. Most people, not most, sometimes, or some people, some families, they're not really sending these people to jail. It's just like, hey, this is what happened, this is where they are, stay away from there, or don't go over there, that type of deal. So I think a person who is holding the secret because they feel like somebody is going to go to jail, I think it's a tactic or a scheme of the enemy, because it's unlikely, I think. It's possible to happen, but I have yet to see it happen from, and I know some of it is still within the context, right, or within parameters of the law to go to jail, but I've yet, in my family and people that I know families, seen somebody go to jail from something that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. But it can happen. But I think the fear is unreasonable to hold that type of secret in if it's impacting the family.
And this, I guess, I don't want to take the conversation in like a different direction, but I honestly want to know, how do we handle situations where it's not our story to tell? And what I mean by that is like, because we always teach it like you only tell certain secrets if somebody is in danger or, you know, if you have permission, right? And some of these people are grown now, and you might have a story of what happened to you when you younger, and you holding it in. But what obligation do we have to make sure that our people is set free?
Yeah. I mean, I think even having those hard conversations with the people, say it's not something you went through, but even like some people maybe it's just like, oh, well, it's not affecting me. And if you have that conversation like, well, you know, this behavior that you have, it is affecting you, but more than that, you can explain maybe like, okay, this is affecting our family, this is bigger than you. And so I think having those conversations with a person to get them to see, because it's been suppressed, right? Like, so if you're a safe place for that person, if you're a safe person, if you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the patience, you don't, you know, you're not equipped to do it, maybe ask, okay, is it okay if we bring somebody in? I don't want you to be alone in this. Is it okay if we bring cousin so-and-so, because I know you're comfortable with them, blah, blah, blah. Maybe bring them in. So I think having those conversations where a person can like start having, I think once you start having those conversations, the hard conversations more, and stop hiding with the one or two people, you'll be more open to even having it and confronting it. But I think you have to start healthily talking about it.
But
first.
it's just reconditioning and accountability. It doesn't matter what the thing, you're a trash dad. You keep having kids and not taking care of them. Why are not men calling you out? As men, call the other men out. As women, call the other women out. But it's just like, oh, that ain't my family. It's like, call people out when they like are not doing good things.
That's good.
You know, in love.
Real good.
You know, instead of like, oh, we just don't say nothing. No, that's so-and-so, he had a side family. That's wrong of you to have a side family. I know when Kiara used the story of Cousin Faith, right? We're not about to just not invite Cousin Faith over and just kind of, I'm going to be like,
Listen, she not coming.
I'm
She's
saying,
not coming.
I'm saying
She's not
like
in my house.
call the stuff out though. Like
What about
even
the-
now, The millennials, for sure, I think maybe because I'm in a generation, we push back a whole lot and we say stuff, but start holding people accountable. Like, we cannot go back into the past. We were silenced, there's shame, there's guilt, there's trauma. I don't want anybody to know my story. All that stuff exists, but have a conversation like, hey, we may not be able to go back and tell because of stuff that happened. However, moving forward, my children, somebody touch you, tell. I'm telling you. I'm advocating for you. I'm going to the police. I don't care who daddy that is, who
probably
uncle,
going
who
to
mama,
jail.
who cousin, all that stuff, right?
Listen, you're going to jail.
Because there is, in the silence, there's separation.
Say it one more
You-
time for the
in
people
the
in the back.
silence, there's separation. So it's like we just got to learn to talk. But the thing is, we didn't talk. So there's already progress because we're talking. Mental health is no longer taboo. Everybody got therapists, right? They're like, oh, I got therapists. I'm put on my shirt. Good job. So it's just like, it's progressing, and it's good that it's progressing, but be mindful of like where we came from, why we were silent. We knew that being silent was wrong. Okay, now we're talking. Now we may not be sending people to jail, but we like, you're a bad person to be around. I'm gonna say that in public. I may not be at the point of calling 911, but oh no, that's Uncle Pedophile. We don't go around Uncle Pedophile. And like saying it versus just like hush hush in secret. Just call people out on their stuff and hold them accountable and just don't like keep it hush hush. It's like, it's healing. It's a lot, y'all. Y'all gotta just talk at the end of the day.
Y'all got comments on Facebook. Elder Mo said that somebody has to stop the madness, to Angela's point. And Monique said sometimes pushing back causes trauma as well. I've been pushing for years. It has to be done, so I'm doing it.
I just wanted to say, because this is a really, really, really heavy topic, and me, like, I'm trying to just keep my Lativia hat on, just think like Lativia, but I can't help it to also think like a social worker. I can't help but to also be mindful that of the population that I do work with for a living. I work with offenders. Been working with them for almost 10 years. So I have heard all kind of things, all kind of stuff. Then I do therapy, heard all kind of stuff. One of the things that I just want to say is, one, when we're talking about something like this, of this capacity, when we say holding people accountable, I get it. Wanting to bring things to the light. My only thing I would say is, what is the motive for it, right? Because you can say, this is a wrong behavior, you shouldn't be doing this, you know, you're disrupting the family. All right, but then what? Like what do you want them to do, right? If this is how they have been, you're telling them this is wrong, maybe they can admit that, and that's fine, that's great. But now, what are they to do? Because they didn't just get to where they're at because, oh, today I just wanted to. So what are you looking for them? I think that's important to just kind of examine the motives behind why you would want to call something out. I do agree, Kiara, right? We do have to put an end to stuff, right? Advocate for those that are hurting and things like that. But also being mindful, too, that the pedophile needs some help, too, right? Like
Accountability and healing.
there's things that need to be done. And there was another point that I had wanted to say, but I slipped my mind, so never mind.
No, I think that's it. Accountability and healing, right? Because even if you were hurt and you hurt someone, there's still a consequence behind your action. So accountability and then healing. So whether that rehabilitation looks like, you know, we're not calling the police, but you are in some ways estranged from your family, and then you need to go to therapy and figure out yourself. That's one thing, that's between that family. But the other party is, if depending on what they decided to do, if you go to jail, maybe that's your place of rehabilitation. But there are consequences behind your actions, whether you were hurt or not.
Okay, and thank you, because you made me think of my other point that I wanted to say is sometimes, and I mean, we talking about pedophiles right now. You know what I'm saying? Sexual abuse. Even if it's not sexual abuse, it can be any other form of mistreatment or whatever. Sometimes we have to be okay with people making poor decisions. You know, we like you can, this is wrong, this isn't okay, how can you do this? We're gonna estrange you and all of this stuff. And guess what? They still doing what they doing. Now, what does that do to you? You know what I'm saying? I mean, as a clinician in school, I was taught I have to respect somebody's right to make poor decisions. I have to respect, you know, them choosing to operate a certain way. Now, pedophilia and all the sexual abuse that and what we're talking about, that's kind of more of extreme. But even then, I work with people who they continue this behavior.
You in government, right?
I am.
And so for the common good of people, you have the right to do what's in your best interest as long as it doesn't infringe upon the rights of others. And I think that goes straight across the board. So if you are going to continue to, and we're going to take it away from, you know, pedophilia, because that may be on the extreme, but if you are going to continue to do domestic violence or whatever it is that you are doing, the moment that you infringe upon somebody else's rights, you're kind of at the mercy of that other person. And you don't get a chance to decide, or you just because you're going through something, you don't get the chance to kind of take the back seat because I was going through something. The person who had that offense, they have the right to say, this is how I want this to be handled. And so I'm sorry, me personally, I'm not gonna look, you know, to defend the person who did that wrong. Forgiveness, restoration, I believe it's for everybody, but so is accountability.
Amen. Listen, we could talk about this till the night goes long, but we can't do that because I want to wrap things up. But the whole purpose of the Disrupt the Norm podcast is for us to have the critical conversations and for us to think critically about how we are living our life, whether it's relationships, whether it's the shenanigans, whether it's our mental health. Is really having the conversation and really being open to say, hey, I need help, or hey, I never thought about this. And starting with Keys talking about relationships or how do we get over the offense of abuse or anything like that, it's time for us to stop the madness, as Elder Mo said. We have to start talking about or having the conversation. And I think even though as this is our season finale, this is a great segue for us to get into season 4 and bring it, you know, back and start having our conversation and critical conversations again. So I thank y'all for coming out tonight. Give yourselves a hand for being a wonderful audience. Oh, and I would also like to thank Bishop and Pastor for allowing us to be in the sanctuary today, and just always being behind us 110% about what we do with the podcast and with the ministry. I thank you for our fearless leader. Give it up for Phil. Phil, did you have anything to say before we wrap up the show?
Oh no, you know, I ain't got much to say for real, but you know, it's a wrap on season 3. Y'all get a gym team a hand as well. Y'all make some noise for the gym team. But you know, definitely I just want to thank you all for the great ideas, the participation. I'm using y'all gifts to further the kingdom this year. Not just Disrupt the Norm, but you know, just this whole year. Also for the audience, thank you all for coming out. We didn't have nobody last year. Yeah, they came, so definitely thank you all for coming out. And again, thank you, Pastor and Bishop, for allowing us to be able to use our gifts to be able to grow, for your guidance. Just thank you for everything. Thank you for opening up the doors, allowing us to have us here.
All right, y'all. So, did you say something, Pastor? You want to say something? Awesome. We love y'all.
The Bible said that the poor is going to be with you all, always. So that goes with sexism, classism. Poor is a class. So they're going to be with us always. Our job as Christians, Rob said it earlier, is spiritual. We have to teach people the spiritual ways to get out of different ruts that they're in. So not only thank God, we're professionals, we're intellectuals, all of those things. We have to make sure that we're teaching people the whole man as we're moving forward. So we're teaching them how to do things in a professional way, intellectual way. We're having them examine different parts of their life they would not have otherwise examined. But we also have to look at the spiritual thing too. Just because the poor will be with us always, we don't have to accept poor behavior. We do not have to accept poor decisions. We do not have to accept the continual cycles of generational curses. As Christians, we don't. Especially as Christians who teach inner healing and deliverance. That is the purpose of us telling people that they do not have to stay the same way, that you can be free. And if you're fighting until the day you die, you're fighting for your children and your children's children to be free. And so we want to make sure that we're moving forward in freedom. I liked when she said that, though, because that is the reality of a lot of people. You're talking about billions of people here on this earth. About 1 million people are succumbing to that. Not that it's a bad statement, it's a true statement. But we have to make sure that it's a fact. Why don't I say that? The true statement is that what the Word of God says, that we could override that. So I just want us thinking about all of that, because otherwise we'll constantly be, but it's a job for everybody. If the poor weren't here, it wouldn't be welfare and EBT and all of that stuff. So you got, it's a whole big picture that we got to look at this, but we don't want to be a part of that picture. We want to bring somebody up out of the muck and mire of their mindset and of their way they are living, so we can teach them how to make better decisions. Amen. So I love all y'all. That's
Amen.
it for the good and order of.
And also thanks to the online audience too, been holding it down all
To
year.
Mace up there.
Yeah,
Thank
Maceo.
you for being our sound engineer,
Shout
our
out to
media
Mace.
person.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mace. We appreciate you. Also, just as FYI, the scripture I was talking about, because I had to go back, it was 1 Kings 5. Y'all can go back and y'all actually see it. Like, I had to make sure and be biblical sound, so go ahead.
Yes, and I just have one final comment. Because what Lativia was saying, I feel like I just need to speak to it really fast. So, yes, people, they do things that are wrong. And it's this thing called one story. This person couldn't be defined by their one story, whether they're pedophile, domestic violence, or whatever. But yes, it's accountability in this conversation, but it also was conversation about the person who did the offense. So it's not that we're dismissing the person who did the offense and then that story is their one story, but the healing is going to take place on the person who did the offense and the victim. So it's not that we dismiss them and throw them to the side. It's just that it does require more critical conversation of what happens next. It's going to be healing on both sides. And not wanting to walk away and just dismiss somebody, because a lot of times we see with trauma, they're just repeating what happened to them. Like, I've had situations where the sexual abuse got passed down. Like, someone said to me, I just did what I saw, and not realizing they were being a pedophile. They just did what they saw. So it's like they're defined by that one story. And it's like, okay, cast them out, and that's the cousin pedophile. No, that's not necessarily the case. They just they did what they saw, and we have to address the trauma that happened to them that they did to somebody else, so we don't cast them aside. We just have to be accountable, yes, for our actions, but hold the space, because healing needs to happen across the board. And I feel like I couldn't close it unless we healing needs to happen across the board, and it's to the victim and the perpetrator, because they're defined by this one story, both sides sometimes, like, I'm the victim, I'm the perpetrator, this is one. No, we both need to heal. And forgiveness can't happen in reconciliation. So I was like, I don't feel right closing it unless I address that. So that's it.
We appreciate you. So let's go for healing, and let's continue to have critical conversations. So thank you again for tuning in for 2024. Season 3 is officially a wrap. See you next season, 2025, season 4. Love y'all.
Yes,
Bye.
sir.